Hello and good day to everybody. Welcome back to another day. Welcome to this channel, Moving Towards Greater, where I am your resource, Dr. John Eaves. And my sole purpose for being here is to help you all accomplish your goals, help you all get where you're trying to go in life. And we do that by moving towards greater. So again, I'm happy that you guys have decided to join in with me for this little quick segment. First of all, I want to say shout out and thank you to everyone who joined us on last Monday for our first podcast, Moving Towards Greater. You guys were awesome. The response has been overwhelming. Apparently, you guys like what you're hearing, and it is our aim to give you more content to help you move towards greater. So I don't want to take much of your time today, but what I want to do is, again, just reintroduce myself. I'm Dr. John Eaves. I was on the podcast with my wife, Dr. Jackie Eaves, on last Monday. And how we're going to do things going forward is, we will have the monthly podcast, but also I want to check in with you throughout the week, if that's okay. Let's want to check in with you just to kind of see how things are going, just to give you some updates on what's going on a macro view of the market, real estate, business, just from an economic standpoint, things that we're seeing in our country, in our nation that affects us on a day-to-day basis. So right now, on this particular Monday, a lot of you guys may be snowed in, all right? It is January 26th. We had a big snowstorm system move through the majority of the country over the course of the weekend. And I know for me personally, I have not been anywhere but the house in the last 2 days. So, but it's been a blessing. I've been able to get a lot of things done. I've been able to catch up on some things. And I hope you're taking advantage of this time as well to accomplish your goals, to reflect, and also just to kind of see, hey, what are you doing that's working? What are some things that you need to update? Remember on the podcast on Monday, we talked about doing a pivot. You may have to pivot at some point in your personal journey, your financial journey, your business journey. If things are not going the way that you had hoped, anticipated, or planned, it is okay to pivot. There used to be a statistic out there that most businesses fail at the first attempt. A lot of successful business owners have had 2, 3, 4 attempts in business before they found the right combination and the right connection to make things work. Hey, that's okay. That's why the pivot is so important, and when we pivot, we gain more information and we get ready to go out and tackle the obstacles before us. So again, I want to thank you all for watching, for tuning in. Please, 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 please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. That really would help the channel out. And also, if you know someone who could also benefit from this information, please share the information with your friends and your loved ones as well. I do want to take the opportunity to let you all know that we do have a website that's up and running, mtg.com or movingtowardsgreater.com. That's all spelled out, movingtowardsgreater.com. And if you go to that website, you'll find some very, very good information on myself and Dr. Jackie. You will also just be able to keep up to date with some things that we've got going on. And we have a busy, busy year planned. So that'll be the place where you'll be able to go to get the information that's happening throughout the community. Also, if you want to potentially book a session with myself or Dr. Jackie, that's where you will be able to go to do that. And then we also have a historical, an archive section where we have old videos and things that I really think that would be beneficial if you go back and take a look at those. So really, really looking forward to that. It's still under construction. It's still in progress. So if there's something that's not quite working or something that you would like to see added, hey, just drop us a line to let us know. We're working on it every day. We're tweaking it, and we want it to be one of those products that is beneficial to you guys in your growth and your movement towards greater. So moving towards greater, that's the bigger platform. But what I was in my spare time, I was sitting around and I was thinking, when we do these little videos, when I do these little shout outs, just kind of update you guys on what's going on from a macro, macro is big level. What's going on in the market? What's going on in the world? What are some things that we need to be, aware of, during this journey? So I was thinking, and I decided that I would entitle this particular segment Power Moves. All right, we got moving towards greater, but also we know life is about instituting and making and executing power moves. All right. So think about that for a minute. What is a power move? Well, a power move is your fuel. It's something that's going to accelerate you from the place that you currently are. It's going to help you to get to where you're going. Think about it as encouragement. Think about it as vision. Think about it as wisdom and knowledge. When you have something that is propelling your growth, that is pushing you forward, that's power. All right. And when you got power, you're able to move from a place of rest, from a place of unease, from a place of discouragement. You're able to move to that next level. And therefore, that's the entire concept behind what we're doing, moving towards greater. But also, you got to understand that every now and then, you're going to need a power move. You're going to need a push. You're going to need a little jolt of acceleration. And that's what I want these little, right now, I'm going to try to stay committed to doing at least one of these a week. But, if we really get into it, you might see two, you might see three power moves, because, as the situation change, you might need a power move. All right. And one thing I want to do is I want to start these power moves out with a verse of the day. Because the word of God is where we get our source, where we get our information. It's where we get our fuel to grow. All right. So I want to start out with in this power move segment with a verse of the day. And it just so happened my verse for today comes from the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 8. And it reads, "Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him." Taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste and see, taste and see. What is that? What is taste and see? Well, tasting and seeing is an invitation. All right. It's an invitation to get out, to do something, to exercise your faith, to explore, to get out of your normal comfort zone. So many of us are so comfortable where we are that we don't allow God to invade our territory so he can move us to the place that he has desired and he has ordained for us to be. So when you make up in your mind that you're going to taste and see that, and not only that, you're going to taste and see, but the secondary part of the verse lets us know that God is good. All right. So when you decide to taste and see, you're going to realize that once you have made that movement towards tasting and seeing, God is going to show you that he is good. And also, not only is he good, but you will find yourself in a blessed situation because you are the one who takes refuge in him. All right. So I thought that word was encouraging. I thought it was very uplifting, and it was very appropriate, to where we are in this day. So taste and see. All right. Pass that along. Let someone know that, hey, God is good. And if we would just make up in our minds that we're going to experience his goodness, and not only experience, but step out on a new level of faith. And that's where we find ourselves today. We have to step out on faith. We have to do things that we normally have not done. And that is the reason for this community. I'm just putting myself out there as a resource, maybe a coach, maybe a mentor, however, whatever you decide you need for this season in your life. But what I am not a financial advisor. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not an attorney. I'm not your attorney. I'm just someone who is using this platform that's available to us to just share and to God let you know, first of all, what I'm doing and what I have experienced in over my 20 years of investing and business ownership. Just to kind of share the real estate market, just to kind of share what has worked. And also I want to share with you some things that have not worked. But just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean that it might not work for you in your particular situation. What I found out is what it comes down to. It all comes about knowledge and understanding. If you have that knowledge and you have that understanding, you can do so many things. All right. You can do things that are incredible, things that you never thought possible. And that's where we live. We live in a time today where there are, the impossible is being done. There are people out there that are 10x in their portfolios. There are people out there who are, getting into real estate, stock investing for the first time. Now they're doing it with a level of knowledge. What you don't want to do is just get out there without any knowledge, without any information, and just try to do things, on your own. You can do that, but the chances are you're not going to be that successful, starting off. As I said earlier, many new businesses, many new ventures that people get into, they are not successful the first time. But what happens if you're working with someone who has experienced some failures, who has experienced some things that they wish they hadn't done, but in those experiences, in that process, they were able to capitalize and learn and come back and even be that much greater. All right. So think about that for a minute. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from our failures. We don't walk away from them. We don't run from them. We don't, go ball up in a corner and say, "I wish I'd never done that." It was messed up from the get-go. It may have been, but check this out. What we do is we learn from those mistakes. We learn from those situations, and then we put into practice a new plan, a pivot. You're going to hear that a lot, from me, because the pivot has really worked in my life. There has been times where I have tried things, whether it be investing, whether it be, working with particular organizations, and you hit a wall. All right. You hit a wall and you find out that you're not able to really go that much further. You're not able to go anywhere. So what do? You put that thing in reverse. Notice how I did that old school style with that column. You put it in reverse, or if you got a stick, or now we just turn the knob or push the button. We hit reverse, and then we alter our trajectory. We turn in a new direction. That's the pivot. All right. So we pivot to the direction that we need to go. And watch this. And a lot of times, especially in today's experience, we turn in a new direction based upon some new information. All right. So how do we do that? Anybody knows that when you're driving a car and you go down a dead end or you miss a turn, we go to our a GPS, the global positioning system, and we receive an update based upon the destination that we're trying to go. And then the GPS system, it calculates using the satellites that are in orbit, your known location, and they add that to where you're trying to go, and they come up with a new direction and a new route for you. All right. Now, if technology can do that, don't you guys think for a minute that, if you are able to connect with resources, connect with individuals that have done the thing that you're trying to do, that you can change this trajectory also? Think about that for a minute. Let that marinate for a second, because I believe a lot of us struggle and a lot of us get frustrated because we don't know where to go. We don't know who to tap into. We don't know individuals that are near us that we can reach out to say, hey, I see this thing that you're doing, it's great. I've seen, how you've been able to be successful, or, how you've been able to prosper, even the way you talk, even the way you walk, the way you look. I can see that there's something different about you. How can I tap into that source that you have so I can make the change and make the shift, in my life? Well, it is very, very possible. And it is very, very doable. All right. So that's why we're here. We're here to encourage one another. We're here to lift you up. We are here to just, again, to be your resource. All right. So think of me as a resource. Think of me as a coach. Think of me as, someone that wants to be affiliated with you to get you to your destination, to get you to your goal, to get you to your success in life. All right. I want you to be successful. I want you to prosper even as your soul prospers. Amen. That's biblical. That's in the word. God wants for you to prosper. He did not create you to be a failure. He did not create you to not be prosperous, because there's so much work that needs to be done. All right. So one of the things I want to talk about today is, and again, not going to be on here too long today, but one thing I want to talk about today is I am a constant watcher of economic news, headlines, what's going on from a global standpoint, but also what's going on from a national, from a country standpoint. And one of the things that is big in the news today from an economic standpoint is the crazy increase in the prices of gold and silver and just precious metals. All right. Right now, as we speak, today, January the 26th, the price of gold is up 83% for the year. The price of silver is up a little over 51% for the year. All right. We're still in the first month of the year, guys. It's January. All right. And right now, the price of gold year to date is up almost 83%. Well, what does that mean? Well, let me, break it down to you, on the limited, mathematical experience that I got, so if you got $100, okay, and you have an 83% return, by my basic math, that's $83. Let that sink in. You put in $100 at the first of the year, 25 days ago, January the 1st, and today, 26 days later, you have a return of that 100 plus an additional $83. Same thing with silver. Silver is up over 51% year to date. And so same thing, $100, that's $51 return. All right. So we're talking about a return on investment there, right? And I'm taking those numbers from not the actual the metals, gold or silver, but I'm taking it from an index fund, a electronically traded fund, an ETF known as GLD, which stands for gold. And that index fund only invests in gold products, actual gold, anything that has to do with gold. That's what that index invests in. All right. And likewise, so as the price of actual gold goes up, and I think the number that I saw today was that gold is up to $5,000 an ounce, which is a historic high. All right. So all you got to do is, take advantage of AI, take advantage of Google, take advantage of these tools that you have, and then just go type in, go, don't take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself. What was the price of gold a year ago? What was the price of gold 2 years ago? Because right now it's at $5,000 an ounce. So I say that, so why is that big news? Because it really points to some other things that is going on in the economy. People have historically placed their money and placed their resources in gold when there is fear that the dollar is not performing as strong as it should. Let that sink in for a minute. What does that mean? Well, I'll put it to you like this. I was talking to an individual a couple of weeks ago, and he happened to be a professional barber. All right, and I was and we got into this conversation about we were talking about inflation, and he said, "Well, what does inflation really mean?" So the way that I explained it, I said, okay, as a barber, you got tools, right? You got, clippers and, things that you need to be successful at your trade. He said, yeah, right. And one of the things he was telling me, one of the things I asked him, I said, well, what kind of, trimmers or clippers do you use? And, he told me he uses the fancy ones that are, cordless and lithium ion battery, you can charge them up and all that. I said, oh, great. I said, how much did they cost, 5-6 years ago? He said, maybe $70, $80. I said, well, how much are they now? And he was like, 160, 170. I said, bingo, that's inflation. I said, when the cost of your goods or the cost of the things that you are accustomed to buying goes up in value. So in other words, when you were able to pay $80 for something, 5 years ago, and now that exact same product is worth almost twice that. And ain't nothing changed about the product. I mean, the technology, they had the same, cordless technology, 5-10 years ago. But here's the thing, in that same time, where the price of the product has gone up, and let's just say the product has gone up like 30%. Okay, we're still faced with a dollar that don't buy you as much as it used to. So when the dollar does not, so in other words, when your paycheck is still the same, so in other words, when you're still getting, the same, wages, when you're still getting the same paycheck, if you're in business for yourself, if you have not, gone up on your prices, so I don't know what a haircut is today. Let's just say it's, it's $30. I'm just throwing that out there. Barbers, please don't shoot me in the comments or anything. But let's just say, it's $30. And But inflation has gone up, 20, 30%. Are you still charging the same $30? Because if you are, you're not getting as much value for the dollars that you have. So what a lot of businesses do is when things go up in value, they have to raise their prices. So that's why we see, food is higher at the grocery store. Things that you buy online, things that you buy in the store, they're now at a much, much higher price, but we're still getting the same amount of money. So what do? Well, what the rich and the wealthy and the big institutional investors, what they do is they create what's called a hedge. All right. So what's a hedge? Well, a hedge is something that's going to offset your potential losses, or a hedge is something that's going to protect you when the market is doing crazy things, like when there's high inflation, things like that. So one of the historical hedges that wealthy people and institutional investors, pension fund managers, one of the things that they use is a lot of times they will go and they will invest in precious metals, gold or silver. So just think about it. Again, if you had $100 beginning of this year and you put that $100 in gold and it has given you an 83% return, you've made $83 off that $100. You're doing pretty good. You could probably go out and, afford, a couple more things at the grocery store. You might be able to, the barber might be able to afford, those new clippers if he was in need and needed to buy something. All right. So that's important. So what are the headlines saying about it? So I got this headline from, I was reading this morning in Yahoo Finance. And here it is. It says gold rises after topping $5,000 for the first time in breathtaking and profoundly scary rally. So there's a rally. Gold is going up. It's gone up almost 83% this year. The article goes on to say that the gold surge has become a hallmark of the debasement trade, with investors buying assets to protect against the erosion of purchasing power amid soaring government debt worldwide. I just said that, right? That institutional investors and people that are profoundly wealthy, they use gold to protect against the erosion of the dollar, and the purchasing power. And why is the purchasing power going up? Well, according to this article, because there is an increased level of government debt worldwide. Government debt. So think about that. What are all the things that the government is funding? All the things that the government has to do. That's just the government deficit alone. Is over. What I think the last time I heard, like 37 or 38 trillion dollars. And we have to pay, the government has to pay so much money just to service that debt. Not to bring the debt down, just to pay interest on that debt. The government has to do so much, has to pay so much in order to just keep up. And that amount of debt is continuing to go up. The budget is out of hand. So what do you, and as a result of that, it's driving up inflation and it's causing the value of the dollar to go down. Because in prior times, people would just go, or the government would just go and they would just print, more dollars. But what we learned is the more dollars you print, it's the, in economics terms, it's called scarcity, right? The rule of scarcity. So the more of something that you have, the less it's worth. What do I mean by that? If let's take Nike tennis shoes or Jordans, whatever you want to call them. If I've got, let's say I've got 100 pair, and I'm trying to, and that 100 pair that's the whole supply. That's all that exists. All right. Well, guess what? They tend to become very valuable. If 100 pair of Nike tennis shoes or Jordan tennis shoes is the only thing that's available, they become very, very expensive. But what if there's 1 million pair? All right, so if there's 1 million, of that product that's available, guess what? The price tends to go down. Same way with the dollar. The more dollars that the government print, the less that is worth. So we had this thing where back years and years ago, the dollar was equal to the amount of the price of gold. Well, we got rid of that standard and we just kept printing money, and printing money. And that's how inflation started to go up. And that's how what this article is talking about, the debasement of the dollar. That's how that began to happen. But here we are. Here we are in a new time, where, years ago we had no one to tell us these things. We had no place where we could go get this knowledge. All right. But knowledge is available, whether you want to use AI, whether you want to go to the library to look it up, or whether you just want to tune into this channel and talk to someone who has experienced, some of these challenges. Now, I'm going to tell you now, I'm not an expert. I'm not what they call the guru. I don't, I have not, experienced every type of financial product that there is out there. But what I have done, I have invested in real estate. All right. I have invested in the stock market, and I do have experience at running my own business. And what history tells us, what research tells us, is that those three areas, investing in the stock market, investing in real estate, and having your own business, those are the three primary paths to being successful and being in a place where, if prices go up, you know what? You got your own money printer. What I mean by that. So when we go out, you have to go to work every day, and I'm not, I worked for many years. I was in the military for over 20 years. I was a government consultant for another 10 years. So I've worked many years. All right. I understand the value of work, and I understand that how you can take a portion of your paycheck and make, investments and 401ks, or, buy a piece of real estate on the side, whatever you need to do if you're disciplined, right? So I understand that. I get that. But when that's the only thing you're depending on, when that's the only thing you have coming in is the income from your check, guess what? Remember I said, the more money that they print, the less value of what that money really comes down to. But what if you had your own money printer? Uh-oh, what are you talking about? Money printer. Like this 83% return on investment from, buying, a share of GLD, gold, or 53% or 51% return on investment by buying into the ETF SLV, which is the ETF for silver. All right. Now you got a 53% return. You invest $1, you got over half of that back. With gold, you invest $1, you got almost 80% of it back. All right. So guess what? That's more capital that you have to take care of your expenses, take care of your family, to put away additional funds for investing, for retirement, and also to be able to leave that generational wealth towards your children and your children's children. So again, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're about. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's power move. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you guys realize that all you got to do is, as the verse of today told us, is just taste and see. All right. A lot of times we get so bogged down into the woulda, coulda, shouldas, or how am I going to do this, or what blueprint is available. We just got to taste and see. We got to be open to what's available. We got to be open to the information that's out there, and we got to tap in and plug into a network, a group of people who are already doing it. To be honest with you, when I made that pivot, that was the pivot that helped change my life. When I began to realize that I can't do it all on my own, or if my circle was such that you're the smartest one in your circle, or no one in your circle is talking about investing. No one in your circle is talking about wealth building. They're all talking, this, that, and the third, y'all know what it's all about. If you find yourself in that type of situation, it's time to pivot. So if you want to pivot, you've reached the right place. This is the right time. The opportunity is out there. Come on, let's network, let's get together, and let's go out and accomplish this thing. So once again, this has been Dr. John Eaves with your power move for today, part of the Moving Towards Greater platform. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out at our website, movingtowardsgreater.com. And not later this month, but next month, we will have our first live session, MTG Live. The location and time is going to be determined at a little bit of a later date. We're still working on some logistical things, but we're going to put into practice the things that we're talking about. We're going to have work groups. We're going to have people come in that are knowledgeable on how you get to this next level of your journey. So again, like, comment, and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed today's content. Look forward to talking to you guys a little bit later on. And remember, always, hey, let's move towards greater. Thank you.